Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal moon in the 10th house of their chart. If you knew how many times I have started this recording, you would probably be shocked. Don't know why, but it just happened that way. So the moon is our emotional reactions to life. It's very personal to each one of us because not everybody laughs at the same jokes, cries at the same circumstances, and we have our reactions based upon past experiences that kind of re-trigger things and create certain reactions to certain events. So that makes it very personal. And then you have the 10th house, which is the top of the chart. It's the house of career. It's the house of your public image. And you have somebody who's very sensitive to that public image, who's very sensitive about their career. And this can, manifest in many different ways. Before I continue, I just want to give a shout out to the two sites that I looked at prior to pressing the record button. The Astro Codex. I always think that people are thinking I'm saying Codex. The astrocodex.com, and the other one I exited that window. I believe it was called astrologyclub.org. And I just kept the Astro Codex because I think that's going to be good enough to give me my talking points here about this. But one thing that this just goes to show about when you garner information is that it can contradict each other. The two sites that I have did contradict each other in the sense that Astro Codex mentioned that because the moon is in the 10th house and because the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn, and because the moon is ruled by Cancer, what we have is a situation, the moon being in its detriment when it's in that 10th house. And this is true when you look at when you're just like talking about planets and signs. Whenever you have a planet in the sign that it rules, the opposite sign with that same planet will be in its detriment. So it's not going to function as effectively, okay? And so the moon in the 10th house is supposed to be in its detriment, and therefore, according to Astro Codex, it will, even if it has good angles or aspects to it, it will still function in weakened ways. I think that is probably overstating things because even Astro Codex mentions that it's still a good placement to have. And they say it can even bring fame and a good public image. That's a direct quote. So, yes, if you have the moon in the 10th house, this is great for entertainers because not only do you rely on your image to kind of promote your career, but you can have that audience itself, and it can be something that you may have a great deal of popularity as a result. And if you're an obscure actor and you're trying to make a name for yourself, obviously it's more of a struggle. It doesn't mean that you don't have loads of talent, and it doesn't mean somebody who's famous has the most talent. It doesn't work that way. It's more like charisma, right? When we're talking about the popularity aspect of it. But whatever you want to call it, that can be a good thing about somebody who is, has this placement, is that you can even experience fame. But the problem with the moon, if you want to call it a problem, is that it's very changeable. There can be fluctuations with the status of the 10th house activities. So because this is the career sector, the person may have a situation where they totally change their career at some point. Perhaps you have like, what do they call it? Changing fortunes? I don't know I can't remember the phrase, but yeah, like fluctuating fortunes when it comes to your career, like you have ups and downs in certain instances that may be, more frequent than somebody else. Who knows? I mean, I'm just kind of speculating here. So, in other words, somebody who has the moon in the 10th house has to be, I think, able to deal with their changing fortunes when it comes to career and with their public image, that it may go through different phases, just like the moon phases, right? And this is because this is a feminine energy. This can also be that this is the type of work that's being done. But I don't want to go off on that tangent just yet, because I wanted to say that the other site that I had looked at mentioned that the ancient astrologers considered this placement to be very fortunate. So there you go. It's always good, I think, if you're looking to learn more about astrology or any other topic that you're looking to do that for, that you seek multiple sources of information, because I have found that that's one of the reasons why I did look at more than one site, is that some sites leave out some things and then other ones include others, and it's like really interesting to get a fuller picture. And also, sometimes you do have contradictions, and you have to decide, what you're going to believe or accept as true for yourself, or give that information to others if you're trying to promote certain information. So, anyway, the point that I was making before, I was talking about feminine occupations. The moon is very much associated with the mother, the nurturing angle that we associate with mothers. So therefore, nursing, and even like, preparation of food. So this could be somebody who is in the restaurant business and it's coming from the family. The 10th house is the father. And with the moon there, it could be both of the parents. You come from this family of restaurateurs, tours, whatever they're called, and you're going to continue in that family tradition. But I mean, taking over their business or working with them, and this brings up an important point, which can be kind of a little bit challenging for somebody who has this placement, because you may feel very influenced by your mother. Your mother may have been a business or a career woman, and therefore she might have been very involved in her own life and may have been a very, forceful type of a figure. In some cases, the mother might be a celebrity or somehow is well known. And so this kind of thing, this happens in families where the parent is a public figure, and so they emphasize the importance of the image to the child, and the child has to kind of kowtow to that. Don't you dare, shame me in public because I'm a politician. Maybe the mother or the family, somebody is a politician. I was thinking of a pastor for sure, but this is specifically with the mother because of the moon. So the other thing too is that the moon, that you may feel somehow like influenced by your mother's career in, or maybe she is influencing what you do. And the the other thing too is maybe you're helped by women in your professional life. And this could go for either gender. If you're a man and you are interested in women, I don't know how it works with same-sex couples. That would be very interesting. I would like to know, how we deal with these things with same-sex couples. But for a man interested in women, his woman may be a career woman and very, prominent or very like active in that way. So, the other thing, the thing that I really, I guess it's just because of my own nature, having the sun in the eighth house, I'm always looking for the psychodrama of a situation. And I could see with somebody who has this placement where you might be too emotionally tied to your career. So if your career somehow kind of falters for whatever reason, whether it's your own fault, if you will, or if it's because the nature of that business or career line is kind of not doing so hot these days, that you take it to heart, that you kind of like see it as your own, well, I'm trying to think like what would be the difference between the sun in the 10th and the moon in the 10th. And the sun in the 10th person can be very attached egoically to what their career status is. So what would the moon be? I think that with the moon, it's something that maybe it makes you feel more secure. And when you feel like it's not happening, you get a little bit vulnerable. You get a little bit like, feeling that other people are judging you or not accepting you as much. So affecting you in that sense. But this can, actually talking about that sensitivity, this can simply be how other people perceive you and not connected necessarily to career itself, where you just are very sensitive to people's opinions of you. This is something that you have to get rid of. It's funny, I like Astro Codex, I think it was one of these sites said, you have to stop caring what other people think. Well, how you... okay, this is what they said. I'm reading directly from Astro Codex. They go, the moon in the 10th house is very vulnerable to negative criticism, and the individual's emotions are easily hurt. Such people can hold grudges towards others that make negative comments, while an adverse aspect with Pluto or Mars can give a quite vengeful character. Now, I would, far be it from me to act like an expert over Astro Codex, but if the moon is so changeable, I wouldn't see that would be true across the board. I would say more if your moon is in a fixed sign, especially the ones that tend to have the most either vengeful issues or maybe stubbornness. The fixed signs, Leo is very proud, so that they might not take too kindly to people who kind of diss them. Or I think with Taurus, there's a lot of stubbornness and rigidity emotionally if they are not treated properly. And then Scorpio. And we could just say enough said about Scorpio. I don't know about Aquarius. I mean, Aquarius is the other fixed sign. But Aquarians tend to be quite detached. But I don't see that across the board because the moon is changeable. So if something's changeable, how can it hold a grudge? The adverse aspects for sure. Do you notice that they said Pluto and Mars because those are the rulers of Scorpio, by the way, vengeful character. But there was something else. Okay, well, I'll just read the rest of the paragraph. There can be traumas concerning insecurity about work, and even the slightest negative comment can be felt as being poked on the wound. The native is much too concerned about what others say about him, which can quite a lot drain his energy. The best advice for a 10th house moon person is to ignore others' opinions, no matter if they're good or bad, and to concentrate on what he really does. Dealing with your emotions during your working hours will simply devour a great amount of time, which could be used for working and progressing. And the reason I was kind of amused by that is that so often you'll find that in giving advice, they say, you just have to stop doing this, but that's like, how do you stop it? These are things that are like so deeply ingrained within us that we don't think we have a choice but to feel the feelings that we do. And that's why it's not enough to say, you just have to stop doing it. It's about like learning how to do that. And what I would say is that meditation, obviously, no brainer. Self-inquiry, which is not, I wouldn't say it's the opposite of meditation, but it's a very active process. And it's really about allowing yourself to be, but challenging your perceptions on the things that have gone on. So that kind of thing is really, I think, a valuable way of approaching things. Because understanding your motivations can really cause you to be more conscious of them in the future and maybe edit them a little bit so that, even I would say too, when you have the moon in the 10th house, make sure that what you are doing is something that you really want to do. Don't allow yourself to be influenced by family, especially because, or another example is, let's say you happen to be good at medicine. I mentioned being a nurse, but let's say you actually become a doctor. I think you would be more likely a nurse if you have the moon in the 10th house, because that's going to be more of a caretaking role. But let's say you decide to go into to medical school, and you start getting all these strokes from people that know you and they admire you so much. Family that maybe have not even gone to college, and they can say that they have a son or daughter or relative who is in medical school, and almost in some cases pin their hopes on you as bringing the family, some kind of honor, and maybe even helping them financially eventually because they think you're going to make all this money. And at some point, you decide, even after you go through the whole process and you even become a doctor, that you're not happy being a doctor, even though you're talented and you can do it in your sleep. You just don't really want to do it. This is where it might be something emotionally challenging for you, because you might feel like you have to do it, and there's emotional ties to career that may defy the reality of the situation. And I talked about working the family business, but what if you don't want to work the family business, and you just have a parent who just assumed that you're going to take over from them? That happens, I'm sure, more often than we think. And so, in any case, other things that can be true for you with this placement are that, I mentioned about being in, like acting and things like that. This can be like really great for performers because you're in front of an audience, and the emotional connection that you make with the audience is really valuable in order to do your job to the highest level. Um, I love going to plays. I don't go very often, but one of the things that I was noticing when I went to this one play, that, I think my partner knew the director, so we went a couple of times and saw the same play twice. Um, I really love, I realized how much I love that emotional bond that you make with the actors. And when the play is over, it's like, you buy into that reality and you buy into their energy. And the actors give the words of the playwright life. And they animate, those words. So there's so much, I think that's, live performances especially. But even on the screen that can happen, of course. You go to a movie and there's an actor or actress who is so much at the top of their game that they really lose themselves in their characters and you believe them as that character. And so it's like a transcendent experience. Um, so again, because of and by the way, they mentioned on Codex about politicians. That's a great thing to mention, because politicians try to get you emotionally too. Now, what do we call it when people are, kind of trying to get us to do things using emotions? We call that manipulation. Well, politicians are master manipulators, and they appeal to us through emotion. And but we have to talk about that instability. And so if you were like a politician, you might be a flip-flopper. There may not be a lot of control over your career in general. In other words, it has its own ebbs and flows, and it has nothing to do with how much effort you're putting in, whether you're good, whether you're bad, whatever. It's all about kind of these different shifts in the outer external energy or world. And so a person who has this position, especially if you have your moon or sun in a fixed sign and you have a tendency to be quite adverse to change, has to accept that with their career. And that means adopting that positive attitude that can carry you through the valleys, the times that, it isn't, flowing as much as you would like it to do so. So, I think, like I said before, the person is emotionally connected to what they do, and I think that this means that you should do what you love. Some people can just go through the motions and just live their life on automatic. I think when you have the moon in the 10th house, your heart is connected to what you do, and if your heart isn't in it, I think I think your work will just naturally suffer, and you will not feel, I think, good on a daily basis, because you'll feel like you're just kind of mailing it in. And so something that is heart-centered when it comes to your decision on what it is that you even want to do is very important. And like I said, it could have a theme of nurturing, whether it's they didn't mention, it's funny that they didn't mention like being a nanny even, where you are like a surrogate parent in a sense. But they mention on Codex, they mention nurses, stewards, hotel managers. Yeah, service to others, they say. And certainly you can do that imbued with a great emotional depth. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that, you found this interesting. And if you would like a natal chart interpretation, for instance, I have different types of readings, love readings that are astrology based. Please check me out at rainandmoonastrology.com. The link to my online store is below. Take care. Bye.